Welcome to the Mortgage Warrior podcast featuring Steve Dostal. Host Darryl Smart chats with the Mortgage Warrior about his no BS approach to financing that will be sprinkled in with conversations with other people in the business and around the community. So without further ado, here he is, the Mortgage Warrior, Steve Dostal.
What is up, everyone? Darryl Smart here. My good buddy, the Mortgage Warrior, Steve Dostal. Steve, what is up, my friend?
Not much. Going back to back on the podcast today because obviously we still got the same shirt on. So
I thought you were looking pretty fresh.
I don't know, looking nice on that. You know, I always look good in black apparently. So, but we'd like to introduce a really close friend of mine, but also a business friend of mine as well, Mike Alford from Alford Family Financial. Just to give you a little background on Mike, he's been in the investment business for
20 years last week.
20 years. So 3 years longer than me for being in my business as a mortgage broker. And we've always bounced ideas off each other. His father as well was really instrumental of me jumping back into this industry in 2009, both Mike and his dad. So we're going to let Darryl go in and ask some questions here to go in. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do here again is to give people some knowledge about, you know, the people that I surround myself with in regards to how I run my business and the referrals that I'm allowed to refer people to.
And it's all about the journeys too, and that's it. And it's kind of a cool tie-in how you started and how you helped Steve along the way. You know what I mean? And it's almost kind of a similar story because you were not even in the realm of finance, and again, as we're going to introduce you, you were a machinist.
I was a machinist.
You were a machinist of all things, and that was your trade, and you kind of pivoted, did the 180, and now you're a financial wizard. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Maybe that's what we should call him, the financial wizard.
The financial wizard.
You know what I mean?
Get one of those in a
Mike at thefinancialwizard.com. That sounds kind of cool. So,
But Alford Financial Family and Company.
Financial and Co. Yeah.
And Co.
Sure.
And Co. So how did this all begin for you? Again, we like to go on the podcast and get to know about you. Like we like to talk about the nuts and bolts of finances and stuff like that. But we want to know what made you want to be a financial guy. Yeah. Especially you were a machinist. So what kind of turned the career?
Funny enough, it actually happened on Turkey Point Beach.
A lot of things happen on Turkey Point Beach.
This is all above
Turkey Point magic.
Yeah.
So it was this. Turkey Point Hotel, or
well, your last podcast you were talking about cottage rentals and stuff.
Yes.
So my parents they had rented a cottage actually just around the corner from where your place is.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I had been a machinist for I think 6 years at that point in time, just right out of high school, and I just wanted to change. And Dad and I, we were having a pop in the it wasn't pop actually. It wasn't pop.
It was a Turkey Point pop.
It was a Turkey Point pop. And we were just sitting on the beach, and he just asked me the question. He says, "Well, what do you think about coming in my business?" And that's kind of how it all started.
When he asked you, was there any reservations, or was it?
Oh, yeah.
Were you kind of taken aback by it, or was it something that was kind of stewing in your head already?
I was making a good living as a machinist. I mean, they bought me a house, got me married. We were planning on having kids, so a career change halfway through would just be absolute suicide at that point. And so I had some reservations there. I knew that, getting into this business, you start with nothing. So Dad was going to have to kind of help me with an income. It's as the discussions kind of worked from there. It was like, well, what do you need? What do you need to survive, and go. So certainly there were some reservations because it's a big change, and I don't do well with change. So,
so you jumped in head first, basically.
Pretty much.
And what were some of the things that you really enjoyed about it right at the start?
You know what? It was my own thing. And when I left my last place of employment, I loved working there. Like I said, it got me a house and married and a very good living, and it got me a machinist ticket, which is something I could always fall back on. But it was, it was working for somebody else, and I was carrying two kinds of stresses from home and stresses from work. And so now when I moved out, it was just my own stress, and it was something I could control. So that was the thing that really stuck out in my head back then. So, and the ability to create my own business, and if I needed to make more money, I'd work for it. That's
exactly
where, when you're in a salary type position, you're stuck.
Well, and again, it's like the three of us. We're all entrepreneurs, I guess you can say. We're all running our own businesses, and it's just one of those things. The freedom, is that something that you really enjoyed? Because I know, and again, we were talking about it off camera about being able to take that long weekend in Turkey Point, and I know I'll do the same thing. I'll take an afternoon off or whatever it is. Is that something that you really enjoyed? Did you thrive on that?
Yeah, well, knowing we were going to have kids, and I was working probably, I was supposed to be 8 hours a day, but it was 10 to 11, maybe 12 hours a day, and I'm getting home late on a Friday, and knowing that we're going to be having kids in a very short period of time, I wanted to be there for breakfast and dinner, and certainly freedom, the ability to say, you know what, I don't want to work on a Friday today, I want to go to a cottage, or we want to go away, so certainly, and the repercussions that come with that's all in me, so the ability to kind of, build up my lifestyle.
And to interject here, I think one of the hardest things that people are, when they listen to this, they think that, he gets to do whatever he wants and he comes and goes. But I think when you really look at what I do for a living, what he does for a living, even what Darryl does for a living, although we have the ability to come and go as we please, we've actually built this up to be able to do that. Like, if you ask Mike the same question today and me the same question today about, was I able to leave on a Friday on, 15, 16 years ago? Well, no, because when you're out there hustling and trying to get business in here, it takes a time to build a book of business, right? So when you finally get to a point where Mike is and where I'm at now, that you're getting repeat clients, you're getting the referrals, your name is out there, that's when it really kicks in, that you're like, I'm glad I really made this move. You sacrificed, a really good paying job to be able to get another really good paying job, but it gives you more flexibility to be home with your children, which is more important, I think is more important in my opinion.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we all do it, and I know it's kind of turning into an entrepreneurial episode just to start, but it's one of those things that I think, and again, you were saying, building the business, I know that's what I'm doing right now, and that's the toughest part, but segueing into that, what kind of enjoyment did you find in meeting these new clients? And I know Steve loves, one of the big things about Steve is those personal connections that he's making, and that's like turns into repeat clients, turns into friends, a whole network of people. Is that something that you really enjoy?
It's building relationships. I'm a relatively introverted guy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to tell as soon as I walked in. I did start off as a relatively introverted guy, but through this business, it was able to help me talk to people, and I'm very happy expressing knowledge and giving out as much information as I possibly can. I want people to learn. So I think just building those relationships, that was key. Do I get friends through what I get? Certainly. I mean, you build some friendships through there, but certainly that client-advisor relationship, I hold that very near and dear to my heart, because when they succeed, I succeed, and when they fail, right,
it turns into a community almost, right?
I fail. Yeah, it does. And Dad had a good line he actually got from his mentor, and it was stay in the business long enough and you'll get it all. Right, and I think that applies. He probably gave you the same.
He said the same thing to me. Yes.
And just to go back to what we were talking about, we were just talking about this pre-podcast, but the first few years of any business, that's your fail period, and then the longer you get into it, it becomes easier, and then you hit that 10-year mark and 15-year mark, and now you're starting to reap the benefits of what you sowed.
So one of the reasons why we brought Mike on, as well as he complements my business in that every mortgage that I sell, I have to offer life insurance. Either they take it or they can waive it, right? Most people waive it because the product that I offer, I don't find is the best option for people. So then I use guys like Mike Alfred or Jay Allen, and my stepson is getting into the business as well. So if I'm new into investing, what advice would you give somebody or our listeners? What advice would you give them about investing with you?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One piece that I took from Dad when I first started was think of what you can afford in your worst possible time. right? When your mortgage rates are going through the roof and your cost of groceries is through the roof, what can you put away at a minimum? And always do that, and you'll be successful. Establish a set of goals, right? We call it a financial roadmap, much like if you want to drive to Halifax, you're gonna figure out you're gonna get the triptych.
You have a starting spot.
Starting spot.
You
right?
start. And the other thing too is that you don't necessarily have to put in hundreds of $1,000s right away, right? If you're like when you're a machinist, right? I worked in a factory as well, and I remember putting money away, and it was like $50 a week is what I was able to do back in those days. Because if you think about it now, right? Like how much is a case of beer these days? It's like $50. Let's just call it $50 for a case of beer.
95.
So, if you're buying, a case of beer a week, and you should be able to afford $50 to put away for your retirement. But the problem is that when you're young, a lot of the young guys and young ladies don't think about that really, because they don't have the knowledge to understand it properly. I really do believe they should be teaching more about investing in high school and mortgages in high school, because realistically, if I would have known this stuff back when I worked at Sunoco with my father, I would have kept that investment going. But again, you have life situations that come up. You have to pull money out of RSPs, blah blah blah. But a good start is somewhere. So I think that if you're willing to learn and you want to have a conversation with Mike, he's easily found at alfordfamilyfinancial.ca. And again, like when I tell people to go to my website and let's get started, the same thing with Mike. Whether you need a second opinion on your investment you have, or a second opinion on an RSP or any kind of seg fund, or even your life insurance, because sometimes you're sold a policy that may not necessarily benefit you now, but it might have benefited you when you were younger. So this is where Mike can come in and look at your roadmap and see whether or not that roadmap is actually going to a good spot.
Well, and we always talk about your greatest path to success is always through review, and always reviewing it. And now I think we all kind of know our markets aren't really friendly right now, and they're not playing nice. Now is as good a time as any to make sure that you are on the same path and you're going to meet those goals, right? And always review. I get so many clients say, well, I don't want to know. Well, you do want to know. I mean, we have to talk about this. It's the hardest thing, but let's review and make sure we're still on that same path, right?
Yeah, because even with the investments that I have with you, I just continue investing in it, and I trust. The thing about having a financial advisor is that you really got to find somebody you can trust and rely on, because if there isn't that trust there, and I'm giving you money to go put away every month, and then when my retirement comes up and I'm like, well, what the hell happened here? Again, you have to do your due diligence about who you're going to be hiring.
Well, I was going to ask, what kind of separates you from other financial advisors, or how do you kind of sell yourself to people?
Yeah, we have that family approach. It's our name on the sign. I've always used that.
Yeah.
And most financial advisors use goal-based type planning. Let's figure out what the end road is and beyond, and how we get there. We're all going to use different types of products and things to kind of get you to that point. Trust is a huge thing, and we've been Dad. It was Alford and Associates before us. Dad, we bought him out. He retired, so now it's Alford Family Financial. So we've been in this city for well over 85, over 35, almost 40 years. So it's a trusted name that we built up, and we hold our name very near and dear to our heart. So from a client perspective, if a client is angry or something's going on, I'm very empathetic towards that, and I'm like, okay, when they succeed, I succeed. When they fail, I fail. And I think a lot of advisors are kind of the same. So I think it's really just building that trust factor and who you really like to deal with, right?
Well, and then that kind of goes into my next question, because I was going to. So what would your average Joe or Joanne look for when they're looking for a financial advisor? I guess it's that connection. I guess would be the best.
I think it's a connection
because it's not necessarily about the calculator and who's best with the calculator, right?
So it's my brother and myself. So my brother Matt, he takes care of the life insurance end of things. I take care of the investment thing, and I think I'm very analytical. So having that analytic ability there, but then you have Matt that also works with me on the investment side, and he kind of brings in the soft facts. So a client doesn't want to know 100% of the data in the analytics, and sometimes as an analytic it's tough to convey those soft facts to them. So
I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum, because you give me those stats, and that I can do social media stats all day long, but you give me financial stats, I just start glazing. And again, I joke about that all the time, but there's a lot of people like me out there that. So how do you kind of put people at ease. Someone like me that just, as soon as you start spouting out numbers, I have no idea. I'm lost.
Yeah, it's relating the numbers to a physical thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's, if we're averaging 5 to 7%, that's great. But all of a sudden we're ahead of the game, but I get lost in spreadsheets, and those that know me know that I like spreadsheets. So that's really like spreadsheets. But it's,
you want to see my head blow up and show me the spreadsheet.
I am an analogy guy, so I tend to bring in a lot of analogies and metaphors and stuff, and clients even they'll glaze over at that, but they just really want to know that are we okay?
It's relatable, basically, right?
It's relatable, right? And also the knowledge, again, like I've said it a few times, is, when they're succeeding, so am I. When they're failing, I feel the same. That's most advisors, independent advisors, get paid based on the assets that we hold under administration. So, if we're down 30%, that's coming out of my grocery money. So, when they fail, we fail. So, and I think that's really where they relate well with us.
So what are some of the frequently asked questions clients are asking you now? Because again, it's a really strange world right now when it comes to mortgages, finances, real estate, everything. So what are some of the frequently asked questions like right now? What are they asking?
Yeah, well, I mean, when markets are going well, which they had been up until January of this year, there's really not a ton of questions. Everybody's happy. They're rolling the high. Now all of a sudden, the world is flipped, turned upside down, and when's this going to end? At the end of the day, I don't have those answers.
You mean you're not a mind reader or predictor either?
Well, the crystal ball.
Let's just say, my crystal ball is foggy like anybody else's, but what I do have is a good backing. It's not just me making decisions. I do have professional advisors that I use through the companies that we do business with. So they just want to know when this thing's going to end. Truth be told, we don't know. It could be 6 months from now. It could be 3 months. We kind of leave that up to the economists to make their 50-50.
It's like a lot of things in the world right now. When's the thing going to end, right?
We have no clue. Yeah. So, they just want to make sure that everything's okay. And when you see your statement in December, which was a very high watermark, and without going into numbers, like the numbers that we hit based on averages that we establish, we should have been hit. Like, we're not hitting those until 2023. We hit them 2 years ahead of the mark. So they're going to remember that number, and then they're going to see this number and say, well, what happened? So it's just reiterating the goal, the plan, reiterating the strategy, and just confirming that, or telling them that it's going to be fine. We'll be there. Right?
And we heard what the advantage of Steve having you on board. What's the role reversal? What's the advantage of having someone like the Mortgage Warrior with your brand as well?
Yeah, we've always tried to build. We're financial services, right? And so in there you have mortgage brokers, you have investment advisors, you have accountants, and we kind of build fences around our clients. And if people need a mortgage that, whether it's a standard mortgage or hard to place, I mean, it's great that I can instantly, here's the card, this is the guy you need to talk to. And that's it.
And it goes the same way with me. People, like I have his cards in my drawer, and I'm like, listen, if you don't like what I'm offering you here, please, honestly, take my document and go and show it to Mike and Matt, or for me, what it is, when you have like a good group of guys around you or girls that are in the same kind of industry, the finance industry, then you can lean on them for advice on things that you don't have that expertise on, right? Mike's an expertise on investing. I'm not, right? Do I invest in rental properties and or lend up my own money? Yes, but that's a different, game compared to what he's doing. His is a long-term game. Mine is a quick, short-term game. So when I invest with him, I'm throwing money at him. So then when I'm 60, 70 years old, then I could say, hey, Mike, I want to kind of draw on that money now. Or my daughter who's holding the camera there, if my eyes close, and then I know that's all going to her. Right? So for me, it's that peace of mind knowing that you have that life insurance to make sure that all your debts and your mortgages and could be all paid out on your, knock on wood, that you pass on. Or, just to have that peace of mind, it's huge. So, for me, having Mike in my corner has always been a good thing, and I will continue to refer him whenever I can.
It's all about collaboration, I guess.
And right? We are professional referrers. That's when you're in the sales industry, especially in the independent in a small town like Brantford, we are professional referrers, and we like to have that group of people, not even on the finance end, but if you want a car, you want to do this, anything. We're happy because we're clients ourselves, right? We're clients ourselves.
And again, it's such a small community, you know what I mean? Anybody you know can do pretty much anything for you. It's just that you got to find that person that's right for you, right? There's lots of mortgage brokers out there. There's lots of financial advisors out there. There's a lot of social media people out there. At the end of the day, you got to find your niche, whether, I'm a fit for you for your mortgage, and Mike's a fit for you for your investments, or if Darryl or Ryan is a fit for you to videography. At the end of the day, you got to find that right fit.
Perfect. And that kind of thanks a lot for having thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you very much for watching Mortgage Warrior. Mike, Alfred, thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Today's episode of the Mortgage Warrior podcast is brought to you by Alford Family Financial .ca.